So hello everyone, this is the Promotory channel. I'm starting the engine assembly. The engine block as usual is still at the machine shop and the engine was disassembled about 4 months ago. Basically, that was the agreement with the customer, meaning he sends money as he can and we work on the engine repair. So there are a lot of interesting things about this engine during the assembly. When I get to those moments, to those details, I'll talk about them. We have an interesting situation with the camshaft. The block should arrive to me next week. I've already prepared for it. I didn't remove the cylinder heads. I replaced the guide bushings on the exhaust valves and replaced one valve with a used one. So the heads are already ready. I've assembled them and put them aside for now. So I'm working on the compressor. I've already installed the crankshaft and already installed a new bearing. The thing with this compressor is the customer says it was purchased not so long ago after being repaired. So we see here there's this kind of crankshaft, a crankshaft from United Motors. You can see the logo here. And when I was disassembling this compressor, I noticed that the shaft, the gear, and also the connecting rods are shifted to one side. So as you can see here on the cover, I prepared to show this kind of mark from the bolt, meaning the bolt was pressing against this cover. Here, the bolt was already ground down on a grinder, as you can see, but still with one edge, it was still pressing against it. Well, and also the crankshaft was shifted. That is, the connecting rod was shifted all the way to one side, and with one side it was pressing against the piston. So as we can see, the connecting rod should be positioned like this in the middle, but it was all the way to the side, and the head of the connecting rod was pressing against the piston. Also, another interesting thing with this compressor is that there was a washer of this width installed, and it's homemade. It's about twice as thick as the washer, and you can tell it's homemade. You can see the marks from the cutter here. So this kind of washer was installed for the power steering pump drive. At first I couldn't figure out what was wrong, why everything was shifted to one side, but then I realized it was all because of this crankshaft obstruction. So this area here is machined differently. Basically about 4 millimeters more has been ground off here. The bearing sits further in, and well, basically there's an extra 4 millimeters machined off. I don't know, you either need to put some kind of washer here, pick the right thickness, that's it. I'll give this crankshaft to the customer. I don't know what he'll do with it. It's his crankshaft. Now we have a different crankshaft installed here, the way it's supposed to be. Everything is already tightened, so everything is good here now. So next, I'll be installing new cylinders, piston sleeve, rings, everything new, piston pin, new bearings. And here we have a set of gaskets. I've already unpacked them, installed the gasket right here between the plate and the head, and also installed new valves. The exhaust valve is new and the intake valve is also new. So the heads are already ready for installation. Actually everything is already prepared. Everything is washed and cleaned. So I unpack and take out the pistons, install them on the connecting rods, put in new bearings, install them on the compressor, and then close up the heads. Today I need to finish the compressor and then I'll get to that. I also need to wash the oil pan and the cover. So there's still work to do until Tuesday, which means 4 more days of preparation. Also, I already have some parts cleaned and washed on the shelf here, and some have been sandblasted as well. Here we have a fuel pump that was purchased after repairs. I'll show it later. And here we have the connecting rods. The connecting rods have already had the bushings replaced and machined after the shop work, so everything is ready. So what I want to do before Tuesday is unpack the pistons. I know that 0.4 mm or 4/10 was removed from the cylinder head mating surface, so I'll trim each piston by 4/10 as well, and then install the pistons onto the connecting rods so that everything is ready. The crankshaft is already done. The camshaft is new, so that's the scope of work we have. Let's get started. So some time has passed and the block has already been brought back from the machine shop. I've fully prepared it, meaning I've washed it once again. Well, as usual, I first removed all the plugs from the oil channels. As you can see, I've already installed them with thread locker. Tightened up a small leak here, meaning I removed all the plugs from the oil channels and also took out the injectors. I cleaned all the oil channels with brushes, blew them out, degreased everything. In general, as usual, I prepared everything. I also chased all the threads throughout the entire block for you, as you can see. That is, I went through every threaded hole on the block and prepared all of them. So I've already reinstalled the plugs, as I mentioned, using thread locker. I tightened them and made a mark for myself. I also installed the oil nozzles back in place. The drop of thread locker, tightened them and made a mark for myself as well. Next, I will install the camshaft bushings, the lifters and the camshaft. Well, basically, as I already said, almost everything is ready, so now I just need to really get to work on it. And basically I can assemble this engine pretty quickly. Well, as usual, that's the plan and my thoughts. Let's see how it turns out. So the camshaft is new from the original equipment brand, still in its original packaging. Now, about the camshaft, what's the story? The customer wanted to restore his own camshaft, so we sent it to some city. I'll write the name here in the captions. There, basically some specialist works on restoring camshafts. He told the customer that there would be no difference at all. If you put the restored camshaft and a new one side by side, you wouldn't be able to tell which is new and which is restored. So the customer decided to restore the camshaft. So basically they sent it there, the camshaft. I sent it. They put it in a box like this, put the old camshaft in the same kind of box and sent it. It wasn't there, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month, give or take, I don't remember. They sent the camshaft just wrapped in plastic. When I unwrapped it, you could clearly see that they just welded up the cam lobe, and then ground it down almost with a file, almost by hand. So it's uneven. You can see it's slanted like this, with bends like a barrel. Basically, the edges are uneven, the dimensions are off, and it's a few millimeters lower. They also repressed the timing gear, and the customer's gear also had defects on the fuel pump drive. Overall, you could see that it was overheated. I didn't really record any footage, but now, if I still have the video, I'll insert what I sent to the customer. I'm measuring the cam that they didn't work on, which is still in more or less good condition. As we can see, has a height of 58. Well, basically, it's 58.5, you could say, give or take. Now, let's look at the cam they worked on. Right away, you can see the play and the height of this cam. Hello. $56, $4, $58, $5, $56, $4, so it's 2 mimis lower. And here you can see how it's made. I mean, here it's just they just welded it and are grinding it down. As I understand it, just with an angle grinder. Here you can see some marks from the grinder. So they're just grinding it down with an angle grinder. They overheated the gear. It's all blue, so they're installing it hot. Of course, you need to heat it up to install it, but not to this extent. Well, and everything came in this kind of packaging, just plastic wrap. Although I sent it to them in a box, in a factory crate, they are so petty that they even kept the crate for themselves. I don't know, in general, my opinion about Rasplitva is that it's just a mess. I will only install it under your responsibility or theirs, I don't know. And I also want to show that the cam is not evenly machined. So here we see 56, 45, and if I move it to the edge here,
56, 15, so that's 3/10. It turns out it has a tilt in this direction by 3/10, and accordingly it's 2 millimeters lower than it should be, than a good cam that's left. So this one is also already a bit worn out, meaning it's about 2.5 millimeters lower. Here's the size it should be. Plus it's also been machined. So at an angle like this, the lifter will constantly be working with just this spot.
In general, I said that I'm not satisfied with this camshaft. I won't install this kind of camshaft unless it's under the responsibility of the customer or the people who made it. So in general, the customer decided to send it back so they could get their money refunded, and the amount is about 50,000 rubles. Plus there are also those shipping costs back and forth. I don't know. We sent the camshaft back to the people who repaired it, and I don't know how it all ended, or whether the customer got his money back from them or not. I'll write the print run here as well. After that, the customer decided to buy a new camshaft, so they bought a new one. Now, I'll be installing it. I've prepared the compressor drive gear, the gear bolts, and here we have the camshaft bushings. So I'm installing the camshaft and then I'll start unpacking the pistons. Installing the sleeves and trimming the pistons by 0.35 to 0.40 millimeters, the same amount that was shaved off the cylinder head mating surface. So the plan for today is to install the camshaft, crankshaft, and sleeves. Well, I don't know if I'll manage to get the pistons or not, as usual. I won't make any predictions. Let's see how it goes. So that's the scope of work. Let's get started. Alright, so I unpacked the camshaft, checked it, and made sure that oil is coming through. The oil comes through the second main journal from the second bushing. The thrust washer, which is installed on the flywheel housing, is where the camshaft, due to its helical gear, presses against this washer. And there, in the center, we have a hole where oil is supplied. So, I visually inspected the camshaft. Everything looks great. I installed new bushings and tappets. Before installing the camshaft, it's absolutely necessary to check the oil passages. We also check the oil passage for the compressor lubrication. This is the hole for the compressor lubrication. And we also check the oil passage for the fuel pump lubrication and oil supply. High pressure fuel pump, and if these passages line up, then these should also automatically line up. Basically you can see them like this. So this is a very important point, because this groove here is an oil channel, meaning oil comes through this groove from the main shaft. First it goes to the camshaft, lubricates the camshaft main bearing, and then through this channel it also goes to the fuel pump to lubricate the rocker arm shafts and push rods. That's why if you install this bushing incorrectly, the oil won't go past the main shaft, meaning neither the camshaft nor the rocker arms with push rods will get lubricated. So I installed the sleeves. First, I installed them without the rubber seals and measured how much the sleeve protrudes above the cylinder block everywhere. The sleeve protrusion is 0.07 to 0.08 millimeters, which is basically the upper limit, up to 0.09 millimeters. So all the sleeves are installed without adjustment rings. Since this is a Maschinenfabrik Augsburg Nuremberg engine, basically the set of rubber seals comes without adjustment rings. And since our block was machined, the machinists made everything to size. So the sleeve is installed without rings. There are just rubber seals, that's it. So right now the sleeve sticks out a bit more because there are two rubber seals installed. Plus the upper seal is not compressed right now, so it's pushing the sleeve out. When the cylinder head is installed and tightened, the seal will be compressed and the sleeve will be in place. I also went to the machine shop and had the pistons machined. We removed about 0.4 millimeters from each, give or take a tenth but we don't pay much attention to a tenth. So all my pistons have already been machined. Now I'm going to install the piston rings and weigh them. So we'll see if there's any weight difference between the piston rings, pin and clips all together. After weighing, I'll install them onto the connecting rods. I've also already measured the piston ring end gap and everything is good there as well. So this one turns out to be the lightest, 3,640, well, give or take, yeah, let's say 3,641, and the heaviest one, 3,646, 47, 46, 47. The scale has a little bit of error. There's a small margin of error. But overall the difference is about 6-7 grams with a weight of over 3 kilograms, more than 3.5 kilograms. So a 6-gram difference is basically just a margin of error. All piston weights should match. Then we install the pistons onto the connecting rods. I've installed and tightened the pistons, and the counterweights are on. The bolts on both the counterweights and connecting rods are 16 millimeters with a 1.5 pitch. I tighten to 110 Newton meters and then turn it another 90 degrees. So I've already checked that all my caps match. The connecting rod number matches the cap number. Same with the main caps. Everything is in order. I also checked how the injectors fit into the notch on the piston. Well, I mean, it's all standard. As usual, everything is like it should be. The crankshaft is fully tightened, the main and connecting rod bearings. The counterweights, I've also already installed the timing gear, set the marks here on the crankshaft. I've installed a new running ring for the oil seal. And I've also measured the piston protrusion above the cylinder block. It's about 0.20, 0.25 millimeters, which is normal. So everything is fine with the crank mechanism. I'm done with everything. Next, I'll be closing the front and rear covers. I've cleaned the covers, sandblasted them, cleaned the threads, chased them, and already installed new oil seals, as usual, without the spring, front and rear. The front one is 105 by 130. The rear one is 120 by 140. So I've already unpacked the gasket, measured it, checked the longitudinal play of the camshaft. There's a washer here. Basically, I installed it first without the gasket, then measured it with the gasket, how much play is there. So I'm installing the rear cover, then the front cover, and I'll close up the oil pan. I'll put the bracket here. I don't know. I need to install the flywheel, and then we'll move on to installing the cylinder heads. The compressor was already assembled. I installed the compressor and tightened everything. So I prepared the engine for installing the oil pan, lifted this part up a bit, so I'll be installing the oil pan. I prepared the intermediate plate, the valve, the new relief valve, the new oil pump as usual, the 43rd, and I wanted to close the oil pan yesterday. Well, here basically I cleaned it and screwed this filler, the filler fitting. And basically, the thread here is stripped. It's 33, pitch 2. I tried to chase this thread. Basically, everything there is already damaged. The thread is cut at an angle. I tried to tighten it with thread locker, but it still doesn't hold. It came loose. So I machined a new fitting, meaning there's a hole here that fits a 27.5 thread. I cut a 27.5 thread for a few centimeters, and I machined this new fitting. I spent last evening working on this fitting. It took me a while to figure out how to do it. Then I tried to screw it in. Then I was machining it, then installing it. So I used thread locker on everything here, and I also sealed it with sealant. So now everything is secure, nothing will go anywhere. Now I'm installing the plate, the pump, closing the oil pan, and then we'll start putting the cylinder heads on. Alright, I've installed the oil pan and tightened it. Next I'll be installing the cylinder heads. The heads are already prepared. I showed what I did with them. Prepared the bolts, prepared the guides, the bushing, and also the gaskets, as usual, L-ring. We don't use any others, so I'm installing the gaskets, Hooliram. Installing the cylinder heads, duct loop on air, Hooliram. And then we'll immediately put in the injectors, rocker arms, and adjust the valves. We can see that in this spot there are these kinds of pits, so it's the second, third and sixth cylinders. Apparently this block used to work with different gaskets. With these gaskets. We have a plug in this spot, so coolant can't get in here at all. But sometimes there are gaskets with just holes here, and the coolant circulates through the system. But here there's a plug. So there are holes in the gasket, but not in the block. And that's how this kind of corrosion happens. Well, right now we're not paying attention to these pits, because when we install the gasket, everything gets closed off with the plug, and the coolant doesn't have access to this pit. Well, I'll just seal it up with some sealant now, so there won't be this pit. So, first I tightened the bolts a little bit with the impact gun. Then I tightened them to 120 Newton meters with a small wrench, and then to 190 with a big wrench. Now I've made marks across them, and now we're turning them another 90 degrees. All the marks should line up. and this bracket where the hydraulic clutch with the fan is mounted. So I overhauled the pump, the new bearing, an impeller and a gasket. Basically, I installed a repair kit. Here we have the old impeller ring bearing gasket, and I also replaced this bearing. Here we have a new one installed. Everything is prepared. I'm installing the bolts. So next I'll be installing the heat exchanger, and here's the outlet to the pump and the outlet to the breather. So everything is as usual. I took it apart, removed this bypass valve, took off the radiator, washed it, blew it out several times, took out some sealant that was there, and also washed the housing itself, cleaned and sandblasted it. Now I'm installing the radiator. There are also some plugs here, and I'm installing this onto the block, installing it onto the engine. I want to say that this is the installation onto the engine. So, when I took this part, for example, put on the gasket and tighten the bolts. So this is already the final stage. Before that, you need to decide whether this part stays with us or not. Check its condition, identify any defects, then it needs to be washed and cleaned. Then you need to prepare the gasket, select the bolts, also check the condition of the bolts, check the threads and so on. Prepare all of this, and only then do I install it. That is, installing it on the engine is, I don't know, maybe a third or a quarter of the work. All the rest happens before that point. So I've already put the engine in its working position. I cover the engine with a cloth like this when I'm doing some work here, cleaning or blowing something out. I always cover the engine so that dust and dirt don't get on it. Basically, I've installed everything possible on the engine for now. Now I'll start getting it ready for painting. Well, as usual, I'll cover what doesn't need to be painted with masking tape and paper. I want to paint it today and maybe even start it up today. If I have time, I also need to install the manifold with the turbocharger, and now I'll start getting all that ready. The turbocharger has been repaired, so I'm unpacking it and installing it on the manifold. Ooh. Here we have the mounting kit for the turbo, gaskets, studs and new nuts. So I'm installing the turbocharger onto the manifold. I'm also going to paint all of this black with special paint for car exhaust systems. And I'll paint the manifold with the turbo. Then I'll paint the engine. Everything should dry quickly in a couple of hours. And then I'll immediately install the turbo on the engine. And as I said today, I'll try to start it up. That's it. There's no need to shoot this. Everything is good. It works great. The pressure is at the maximum as much as possible. It's heating 7. The relief valve is working. The RPMs are steady and low, and it's not even shaking. So everything is excellent. But while it was still cold, when you rev it, there was black smoke coming out. I couldn't pump it right away, so I put in a different pump. With the previous pump, I couldn't get it to work, so I installed another one. So it was sucking in air somewhere, and that's why I couldn't start it for so long. Once I put in this pump, everything got pumped through, and everything is excellent now. So it runs smoothly and steadily. The pressure is good, and there's almost no smoke, even though the turbo isn't connected yet. When you rev it, of course, it throws out some smoke, because there's not enough air. The turbo isn't connected. You can see here, it got sooty right away when I started it. The system hadn't been primed yet, and you could see in the video how it was running. It was shaking, it was puffing out black smoke, there was black smoke coming out, so there was air in the fuel system. And obviously, the engine wasn't running as it should. That's why everything got sooty here. But I'll wipe it off with a rag now, more or less. Now, I'm removing the batteries, and I also had a story with the batteries. This battery here died on me. Basically, it shows 6 volts. I tried to charge it. I took a jump starter over there, but I just can't get it to charge. It died, so I went to the bus, took out the battery, brought it here, installed it, and now I have to take it back to the bus, connect it, just so the driver doesn't have any problems. But basically, I have to do everything. It's extra work for me again. So now I'm removing the batteries, connecting the diesel, draining the oil, because I won't be sending it with oil. The oil is mine. It's for the braking, and the customer will add whatever oil they need themselves. I'm also draining the oil from the filter, unscrewing this plug. And tomorrow I'll be packing it up, because today I struggled with this pump. I couldn't get it primed. One thing after another. Then, with the batteries, I don't know, tomorrow I'll pack it up and fill it. Anyway, I'll send a video of the filling now. Everything is fine. My mood even improved a bit. Because at first I couldn't start it. I thought maybe there was some problem with the pump, because we bought the pump and didn't even check it. We just bought it. Well, according to what was said, I know the person we got the pump from, and he said that after the repair, there shouldn't be any problems with the pump. In general, everything is good. My mood improved because at least the engine started. Everything is working fine. So I'll be finishing this video about repairing this engine. Thank you all for watching. Good luck to everyone. Goodbye.